Good morning, everybody, and welcome in. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about sanctification and what it means to be sanctified, especially in sobriety. The definition of sanctified is to set apart for special use or purpose, to be made holy. To me, it's to be more like Jesus. And so, I just wanted to go over a few steps on how I was able to get to a point where I felt like I was on the right path and I'm heading in that right path. It may take me uh, a month or a year or 10 years. It might take the rest of my life, but I feel like I'm on the right path. And so let's get into detail about that. Uh, Number one, uh, I always cared about right and wrong, and I knew the difference between right and wrong, but I wasn't able to do right and wrong. I still was drinking. I drank for 27 years, and so that held me back. And it wasn't until I was able to quit drinking that I was able to work on other aspects of my life. So, caring about knowing right and wrong is one thing, but actually doing it is a whole nother thing. And so that's where I was when I got sober, and I started to grow in my faith when my church launched 2 years ago. And I've been able to grow in my faith, and as a result, start to feel as if I was sanctified. And so number two, celebrate me. So as I got sober, that allowed me to actually celebrate myself and celebrate the milestones of quitting drinking, the 30 days, the 60 days, the 90 days, and so on, even into the 1 year. And now I'm on my fourth year of being sober. And that has allowed me to celebrate me. I had to get to a point where I could actually appreciate myself and love myself again before I was able to hand myself over to Jesus and make myself whole, make God make me holy, and me being able to give myself over as a vessel for good in the kingdom of God and do God's glory and have other people see what's happening and what can happen in their lives through me. Um, Number three, I started to love myself again and love others. What does that mean exactly? Well, I held a lot of anger and resentment in not only towards myself but towards other people. I looked for others to blame. I I tried to not blame myself because it doesn't feel good to blame yourself. So I would take that pain and that anger and ruminations out on other people. Just I may not say it out loud, but I'll be thinking it and I'll hold it in, and that pain and that hurt just held me back, and I was not able to grow. It stunted my growth as a human being, and it stunted my growth in my faith, and it's held me back. And so number four, I found my faith. And so when I found my faith, when my church launched a couple years ago, it really started to open my eyes to where I was in my life. I wanted to be like Jesus. I wanted to live that life, and I wanted to live a wholesome, healthy life, holy, like with the be full of the Holy Spirit. That's really what I wanted out of my life. And I wasn't able to attain that. But when my church launched, I spent that whole first year going there, and I didn't really know anybody. I wasn't afraid to meet people. I just wasn't sure that I wanted to be part of that community where I was involved, and I felt like I was obligated to volunteer, obligated to talk and listen to other people. And it was not because I didn't want to, but it was because I wasn't fully trusting myself that I was able to be open about where I was in my life and my sobriety. And so as I grew that year, I started to recognize that I felt a little bit more confident in myself and not feel so anxious about opening up. And so, Christmas time of 2023, I was able to introduce myself to my pastor. My sobriety just came right out. It just came pouring out, and it was after a church service. I was by myself. Typically, I'd go with my daughter or two of my daughters, but they weren't there that day. And it was almost like it was meant to be when I walked out and he was there and he was smiling and he wasn't talking to anybody else, where I was able to go up to him, introduce myself, and tell him that I've been following him for a few years now, 5 years, and I was so grateful that they opened that church, and um, my sobriety came up, and it was just I told him all about where I was in my life, and I was going on 4 years sober, and he just gave me this big giant hug, and it was one of the greatest moments of my life, honestly. And it was not just great, but it was a relief. I felt like I had been building up to that for a while, but I just, for some reason, wasn't able to build up the courage to do it. I had many opportunities on the way out of church to do so. I was with my daughter most of the time, and she would nudge me and say, "Go over and introduce yourself," and or introduce us, and I'd say, "Oh, he's talking to somebody." So I'd use that as an excuse for a long time, but this just worked out, and it was just a matter of time before we set up arrangement where we had a meeting. I gave him my background, and we had set up another. He knew of another member of the congregation who was 1 year sober and going through some issues, and he introduced us. We got together, the three of us. We talked about forming a sober group, and we went from there. And it was just a few months after that, where Easter was coming up in February, and my pastor called me and said, "Can you do this church testimonial? I really need some help. The person I had lined up backed out, and it'd be really a huge thing if you could do it." And I said, "Absolutely," and without hesitation, I said yes, no doubt about it. And in my past, I would never have been able to do that, but it was just through the grace of God and through this church and through all the things that I had gone through that I felt like I was able to do it. And so that was just the beginning of everything that's happened in these past 6 months, really. And I've been able to grow in my faith since then, and learn more. And I started reading the Bible at the beginning of 2024. I'm at a point where it's August now, and I'm 8 months into it, and I've got 4 months to go. And before I started reading this Bible plan, um, I had only read a few pages and just got bored with it, and last year in 2023, I did start reading the Gospels. I actually did read all four books of the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I got through it. And but this Bible plan was recommended by my pastor, and so I started on it. It's about 15 minutes a day. It's called the Robert Roberts Plan, and it's called the U Version Bible app. I use it. I get on there. It checks it off every day that you go through it, and it's easy, and it's like I said, 15, 20 minutes a day, uh, and and that's that. So this journey has been just one that's been eye-opening to me. I never expected to be growing in my faith the way that I did, but I feel like it's necessary, and I felt like it was necessary, and it was through the grace of God that I found where he was, where this pastor was, where he opened his church. It wasn't far from where I was going before, and it just happened to be that I looked on there on the website and saw that they were launching in a week, and I went, and that was that. And what I've learned through going to church and growing in my faith is that I'm growing closer to God, and it's a blessing. And as a result, I'm able to maybe get to a point where I'm living this life that Jesus would live. And it's not perfect, and I'm not perfect. I still have issues where I can get upset, or I can get anxious, and I can lose my faith or lose confidence in what in God and what's meant to happen. But when I really stop and I really take a breath and I really just ask God, or I pray, or both, or just meditate on what I'm going through and remember that God is there, and in God's time things will work themselves out. And 9 times out of 10 I'm fine right away, and it's a blessing, and it gets me back on track. I'm able to not be so anxious, and I'm able to live that life that God intended me to live. And it was through Jesus Christ that I am able to um, live my life and try to be like Him as much as I can. And so, wherever you are in your journey, just take faith in the fact that you're here. You're doing something about it. This isn't necessarily a sober podcast, but I will put it in my sobriety and my faith playlists. If you go over to those playlists and see, you'll see it. And I hope I didn't leave anything out, but this won't be the last. And I'm glad you're here. So thanks for going with me on this journey, and I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.